Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is from the CBN. I am Mulia Misidada. Trade, according to Investopedia, is a basic economic concept involving the buying and selling of goods and services. International trade allows countries to expand markets for both goods and services that otherwise may not have been available locally. The Central Bank of Nigeria earlier this week received the newly appointed World Trade Organization Director General, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, who arrived in Nigeria over the weekend for a 5-day working visit. Today on the program, we'll bring to you details of her visit to the CBN headquarters in Abuja, plus our interview with the Director General, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Dr. Muda Yusuf, on Nigeria's continental and international trade, as well as the economic diversification drive of the government. But first, let's bring you the news. The Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria will hold its second meeting of the year next Monday and Tuesday in Abuja. At its January meeting, the committee unanimously decided to leave the monetary policy rate unchanged at 11.5%, a symmetric corridor at plus 100 and minus 700 basis points around the monetary policy rate, cash reserve ratio at 27.5%, and the liquidity ratio at 30%. In reaching its decision, the MPC was of the view that it should pursue its stance of systematic synchronization of monetary and fiscal policy accommodation through its developmental finance initiatives aimed at mitigating the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on Nigerians. The Central Bank of Nigeria and the Nigerian Communications Commission have helped resolve the pricing disagreements between mobile network operators and deposit money banks in the country. Mobile network operators and banks have had protracted disagreements concerning the appropriate USSD pricing model for financial transactions. This resulted in the accumulation of outstanding fees for USSD services rendered, leading to potential service withdrawal by the operators. In a joint statement by the CBN and NCC on Tuesday, it was revealed that after comprehensive deliberations on key issues, all parties involved agreed to a flat fee charge of 6.98 naira per transaction to replace the previous per session billing structure, ensuring a much cheaper average cost for customers to enhance financial inclusion. The amount remains the same regardless of the number of sessions per transaction. Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, has challenged stakeholders in private and public organizations to ensure all-round gender development and equal opportunities that can result in the rise of women in leadership positions in Nigeria and across the world. Mr. Emefiele gave the charge on Thursday during a commemorative webinar hosted by the CBN Deputy Governor of Financial System Stability, Mrs. Aisha Ahmed, as part of the activities to celebrate this year's International Women's Day. CBN Governor cited the affirmative action on 40% and 30% representation for women in top management and boards of deposit money banks, as well as policies of the Apex Bank that had afforded women access to finance for their improvement. He noted that there is overwhelming evidence that organizations with high level of female participation fare better than others. Keynote speaker at the virtual event, executive resident at the University of Oxford, and former treasurer and vice president at the World Bank, Ms. Aroma Ote, said women are key to society advancement and reinvest up to 90% of their resources into their respective families and societies. The deadline has been extended for the receipt of call for expression of interest from qualified independent asset managers active in the infrastructure sector to manage the Infrastructure Corporation of Nigeria Limited Infracorp. A joint communique on Monday from the Central Bank of Nigeria and Africa Finance Corporation and the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority puts the new deadline at 12 noon Nigerian time on Tuesday, the 30th March 2021. The process remains the same, as expression of interest is to be made through the email address infracorp@cbn.gov.ng. Upon receipt, the promoters shall share a detailed request for proposal document providing potential asset managers with the necessary information to prepare appropriate proposals in line with the promoters' requirements. Meanwhile, the CBN has confirmed the appointment of the advisory services firm KPMG as transaction advisor for the Infrastructure Corporation of Nigeria Limited Infracorp. CBN spokesman Mr. Osita Nwanisobi made clear that the appointment of KPMG as transaction advisor is different from the call for qualified asset managers for the corporation. Wanisobi explained that bids were also considered from other advisory services firms like PwC, Boston Consulting, and McKinsey & Company for the role. To celebrate this year's Global Money Week, the Central Bank of Nigeria has invited young people to take part in a social media challenge. Eligible participants between the ages of 18 and 35 years are required to showcase their talents, artworks, and skills in a creative video of not more than 2 minutes or photograph in line with the theme, Take Care of Yourself, Take Care of Your Money, for a chance to win an Apple MacBook Pro, HP Pavilion X360, and Apple iPad Pro. The challenge, which was announced on CBN Twitter and Instagram handles, opened on March the 16th and will close on March the 26th. Top 10 entries will be selected for grand finale on March the 30th via Zoom. The Global Money Week is an annual financial awareness campaign highlighting the importance of teaching children and youth about financial education. And that's the news.
Up until a few years ago, Nigeria produced far less than it consumed, spending up to $22 billion annually on importation. Then came the import policy by the federal government. Now, to survive, the nation must learn to be self-sufficient. And so far, we are on the verge of achieving this through the intervention of the Central Bank of Nigeria and other stakeholders in support of local farmers and efforts of value chain entrepreneurs. Now, the goal of creating 10 million jobs in 5 years through 10 commodities is gradually being actualized. Let's buy Nigerian to grow Nigeria.
Welcome back. Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, along with other top officials of the bank, received the visiting Director General, World Trade Organization, WTO, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala on Tuesday. Emefiele called for the support of the WTO in protecting local businesses in order to create jobs and boost efforts at moving the economy away from largely depending on oil revenue. We have details in this report.
The visiting World Trade Organization Director General, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, was accompanied by a delegation both from Geneva and Nigeria. The Nigerian team was led by the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Nasir Sani Ngwaso. The host, CBN Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, praised the emergence of the WTO DG. As a thing of pride for Nigeria and Africa, he expressed readiness to work with the multilateral organization. Making reference to the high rate of unemployment, particularly among Nigerian youth, Emefiele harped on the need to give a chance for local industries to grow and create jobs.
Nigeria is a country that needs help, and I dare say help from WTO, and we would work with you. We do know, one way or the other, people may have seen or said a few things about the way we've conducted our trade. But I think it's important for me to say that some of those things have been done to also help. I know people don't like to use the word protect our own industries, but we're trying to say that we need to give a chance to our own local industries to grow. We need to give a chance for our local industries to create jobs and employment. The unemployment rate in Nigeria, and I dare say, is very high. Our youthful population of people of the age of about 18 to about 40 is almost close to about 60% of our population. You can use that to your advantage. You could also use that to your detriment. The fact that we need to create jobs for this set of people, we need to create an enabling environment for this set of people to live a gainful life, means that we have a responsibility to do so. And in doing so, we would need the support of institutions like yourself to work with us.
The WTO DG, who said she was thrilled to see the senior management team of the Apex Bank, congratulated the CBN governor on having assisted to get the first set of doses of COVID-19 vaccines to the country.
As envoy of the WHO working on trying to get these vaccines here, you called, you were concerned, you said what could the private sector do, and we talked about their help in logistics. Because once the vaccines arrive, distributing them properly is also a very difficult thing, and I really want to congratulate you on having assisted to make that happen. This is a very good thing. I'm working with the private sector to raise the substantial amount you did to make sure that our people have access. So thank you for doing that, and congratulations on that.
Okoji-Ewela raised concerns about Nigeria's investment environment for both local and foreign investors, adding that Nigeria has the human resources to thrive in various areas of the economy.
We should ask ourselves the questions you raised, Governor. Why is it that the pharmaceutical companies that opened here struggled and closed? What are we doing to make sure, as you said, this doesn't happen? What are we doing to see that our own domestic manufacturers of pharmaceuticals have the appropriate environment they need? We've now seen what happens. If you have this pandemic and you don't have some ability to provide, you have to wait. Sometimes in a queue where there is supply scarcity. And we've been pushing and pushing through COVAX, but you see everybody is demanding these vaccines. So I think, and medicines, I think we must learn the lessons now, because there'll be another pandemic in the future. What are we going to do now to establish the capacity, reinvite investment into that sector? And yesterday with Mr. President, I mentioned that we should start thinking of establishing capacity to manufacture vaccines now. It takes time. It takes time. It takes years. This is a business I know something about, to be able to have a certified manufacturing plant. So we should start now to see how, with a public-private partnership, we could begin to attract investment.
Responding, the CBN governor highlighted the areas in which the assistance of the World Trade Organization will be much desired.
We need to think of how can we open up Nigeria. We need your help in these areas. Trust me, we would not. The current administration is very, very serious about opening up Nigeria so that we can begin to talk about, moving Nigeria away from, like you use the word, fossil fuels, or moving away from an oil-dependent economy to what we can say a country that is endowed in even non-oil areas. And we have those endowments. It is just that we have to work at it, but we will need help of multilateral institutions like yourself to work with us. Luckily, you are there from Nigeria.
Thanks for staying tuned. Some trade issues were raised during the visit of the WTO Director General to the Central Bank of Nigeria. In a virtual interview midweek, we continued the discussion on some of those issues with the Director General, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Dr. Muda Yusuf. Here's what he said. Now we have the Director General, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industries, Dr. Muda Yusuf, joining us on the program. Many thanks for joining us on the program today, sir.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Okay. One of the 6 objectives of the World Trade Organization is for developing countries to benefit fully from a global trading system. How can Nigeria take advantage of this to improve trading?
Well, it's about developing our capacity with respect to the quality of our products, our capacity in the area of trade promotion, our capacity in the area of trade facilitation. Because trade, as you know, is about how competitive you are. And the only way any country can benefit from trade is to also offer the general trading community, whether at the regional level, at the continental level, or global level, products that are competitive in price and competitive in quality. What we have been doing so far for many years is that we're exporting just or trading products that are just primary products, particularly from the export perspective. And this point was stressed during the visit of the WTO Director General, the issue of value addition. Need to build capacity to add value to whatever we produce, whether we are talking about agricultural products or oil products, crude oil, and all of that. Value addition is key. So these are areas in which we need to strengthen our capacity and build competitiveness so that we can take advantage of the opportunities in global trade.
Now, what areas of collaboration exist between the Central Bank of Nigeria and the World Trade Organization? More so now that we have Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala running at the helms of affairs at WTO.
Well, following from the visit of the DG of WTO, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, to the CBN, she also highlighted areas of collaboration, particularly in the area of facilitating trade, facilitating payment systems, and looking again at issues of trade policy and how the central bank can align with a trade policy regime that is also consistent with the ideas or with the philosophy or the vision of the WTO. The WTO DG emphasized the fact that we have trade remedies because the Central Bank of Nigeria is very passionate about industrialization, about growing domestic capacity, about backward integration. And this is an area that the WTO is also passionate about. But the approach as to how that can be achieved is what we need to find a proper alignment around between the WTO and the Central Bank of Nigeria. And I recall the DG of WTO stressing the fact that within the WTO rules, we have what we call trade remedies. The whole essence of trade remedies is to identify the vulnerable sectors and areas in which a country needs to be protected so that as a country we can take advantage of the trade remedies that are contained in the WTO protocol to protect our industries where we feel it's necessary to do so. So I think there's a big scope for collaboration and synergy between the central bank and the World Trade Organization.
Now, during the visit of the Director General of WTO to the headquarters of the CBN on Tuesday, she also mentioned something about customs facilitation. What does that entail?
Well, customs facilitation is about simplifying the customs processes. Because one of the biggest challenges that the investing community has today, as far as international trade is concerned, has to do with the processes of the customs and some regulatory agencies at the ports. So when we talk about trade facilitation, it's about how to simplify those processes, how to reduce the cumbersome nature of documentation, how to remove discretionary powers in the interpretation of some rules, especially around the valuation of imports, the classification of imports, the tariff that are applicable to products, the number of procedures that needs to be, that importers need to go through in the process of trying to clear their cargo. So a whole lot needs to happen around that, and also the use of technology in the international trade process. We have been talking about the single window for some time. That has not happened. So if you use more of technology, all of these things are in tandem with the whole idea of trade facilitation. Because as a customs agency, they have a dual mandate. And the first mandate is trade facilitation, the other is revenue generation. But what we have seen over the years is that the trade facilitation culture in the Nigeria Customs Service is very, very weak. The emphasis most times is on revenue generation. And in the process, they hurt the whole idea of supporting trade, of trade facilitation. So I think that is what she was referring to. And I'm hoping that both the WTO and the central bank will bring some pressure to bear on the Nigeria Customs Service and to do a lot more in the area of trade facilitation.
Okay, now Agriculture, trade, telecommunications, manufacturing, and the creative industries are the driving growth of the economy. But oil remains the major revenue earner for the country. How can Nigeria's economic diversification drive be better focused?
Well, to improve on the diversification drive is to improve on the productivity in all these sectors that you have highlighted. If you look at the structure of our GDP, the GDP is fairly diversified in structure. I mean, agri, for instance, accounts for about 23% of GDP. The services sector accounts for about 16%. Then we have other sectors like construction and all of that. But in terms of productivity in each of these sectors, the productivities are still very, very weak. That is why agri that contributes about 26% to GDP is accounting for just about 1 or 2% of revenue. The same thing with the distributive trade sector. So it's a question of ensuring that we look at the productivity challenges in agriculture, in manufacturing, and in other sectors of the economy. Productivity is still weak, perhaps because of the issues of the structural problems that we have, especially around infrastructure. That's a major issue that we need to deal with. We also need to deal with issues around our policies, around our regulations, around our institutions. All of those things need to work together to ensure that we make all these other sectors more productive and more competitive. If that happens, then we will see a better structure of diversification. And also even within the oil sector itself, there's still a whole lot of diversification that needs to take place within the oil and gas sector. Because what we are doing essentially now is just exporting crude. Whereas there's a whole lot that can happen around refining of petroleum products, around petrochemicals, around fertilizer, around all the industries that are related to the use of gas. So a lot also has to happen even within the oil and gas to make the economy more diversified and less vulnerable to external shocks, particularly to the shocks that are inflicted on the economy by the volatilities of crude oil price.
Now, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area agreement took effect on January the 1st this year. And now we have a Nigerian at the helm of affairs at the World Trade Organization. Between trading within Africa, within the African continent, and trading within the international community, which should be Nigeria's priority, and why?
Well, our priority should be first within the African continent. As we say, charity should begin at home. We're already playing within the sub-region. We are talking now about ECOWAS. We have expanded our space. Of course, we still have a bit of issues at the sub-regional level. The natural step or the natural progression should be to the continental space, which is the African continent. Because there's a lot that can happen among the African countries. There's a lot of opportunities, and we should generally be more competitive within the continent. And by virtue of our size, we should be working towards making Nigeria the industrial hub, the oil and gas hub of the continent, by virtue of our size, by virtue of our location, by virtue of our population. So we are well positioned to dominate the space. If only we can get our policies right, if only we can get our institutions right, and if only we can also fix our structural problems. So from the continental level, it will be much easier to now launch into the global trade arena. Moving from the experience that we'll have had at the continental level in terms of building competitiveness of the economy itself. So I think it is better to move progressively from the national to the sub-regional, then to the continental, then to the global trading arena.
And finally, sir, now it's 3 months into the implementation of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. How would you assess the implementation of the agreement so far? What's the level of engagement?
Well, the level of engagement is still weak. Even here in Nigeria, the level of sensitization is very weak. I had a conversation with members of the National Action Committee on AFTA, and they were complaining about funding, that they don't have funding to even go around the country to undertake the necessary sensitization as to how people can go about it. So I think we need to do a lot more at the national level to sensitize people and to give people more information as to how they can go about the sensitization. And this needs the proper support of the government, because from all indications, these institutions that are supposed to promote the AFCTA, I'm not sure they are well funded. So something needs to happen. We need to improve on the funding, on the commitment of government to ensure that beyond just ratifying the agreement, we position our economy to take full advantage of the AFCTA. At the continental level, well, countries have different levels of readiness. Some countries are much more ready than others. But the AFCTA Secretariat is also doing its best to ensure that countries that are lagging behind also come up to join the flow by ensuring that the level of readiness improves. But generally, the momentum is still very low across the continent. But with time, hopefully, things will pick up much faster and better.
All right. Hopefully, when next we'll be speaking with you, we would have positive reports concerning the agreement. We will leave it there for now. Many thanks. It's always a delight speaking with you, sir. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
That's our package from the CBN this week. Remember to log on to the website of the Central Bank of Nigeria, www.cbn.gov.ng, to find out more about the people-oriented initiatives of the Apex Bank. Call the CBN Contact Center using the phone line below for your valid complaints. Local call rates may apply. Send in your comments and contributions to the email address from the cbn@gmail.com and follow us on the social media for updates and uploaded episodes of the program. I am William Isidada. Keep staying safe and bye for now.